sure I'm in the right room because not everyone wants to go there. So, okay. Yes, okay, I love it. It is so true, you guys. You do not rise to the level of your goals and your hopes and your dreams. You fall to the level of your self-worth. And that's the thing. Like, that's the thing, right? And what I know for sure, I believe this in my soul, is that your hopes and your dreams are possible, whether they're in your relationships, your friendships, or your saint business. I believe your hopes and dreams are possible, right? And the biggest thing you can do is that work on the inside to know that you are worthy and deserving of them. So I'm gonna share just a couple parts of my story, but not to share my story. I really want you, when I share it, to think of yourself in my shoes, as if it's your story. And as if, how would you react in this situation, okay? Because that's the best way for certain things to sort of take root. So I don't know if you always knew your whole life you would be an artist and an entrepreneur, but my whole life I thought I was gonna do a talk show. Like I would sit in my living room all alone and watch Oprah every single day, literally every single day. And I thought one day I'm gonna, grow up and I'm gonna interview other people and share their stories with the world. So I thought, that's what I'm gonna do my whole life. And I worked all the jobs to try and get there, from waitressing at Denny's to pushing grocery carts in the parking lot, bagging groceries, slicing meat in the deli, all the jobs. And I eventually was in what I thought was my dream job. I was anchoring the news, moved up into different cities and different markets, and I was in Portland, Oregon, anchoring the news. Oh, there's some people from Portland. I love it. So I was in Portland, Oregon. I'm in my dream job. And then I entered a big season of setback in my life, a huge season of self-doubt. I don't know if you can relate to one of those seasons. But I was in my dream job, and one day I'm there live, anchoring the news, and I hear in my earpiece from the producer, he's like, there's something on your face. There's something on your face. You need to wipe it off. You need to wipe it off. And I knew what it was. I had hereditary rosacea. And I had gone to all the dermatologists and all the things, and nothing ever worked. And for me, it gets really red, like bumps everywhere. It feels like sandpaper. And so I glanced down at the commercial break, tried to cover it, and it wouldn't cover. So I'm anchoring the news live, and the hot HD lights are breaking up the makeup, and it started to look like desert clay cracking everywhere with the red coming through. And no one knew what it was, right? They're like, there's something on your face, you need to wipe it off, you need to wipe it off. It's still there, it's still there. And I'm like, and you're live, and you're trying to, you can't talk back you can't do anything. He's like, it's still there, it's still there. And I remember anchoring the whole show, and I was so stressed out. I remember my heart beating in my ears, pounding. And I kept trying to cover it up at commercial breaks, and nothing would work. So I started this big season of self-doubt where I was trying different products on the market, in the drugstores, the department stores, trying everything, nothing would work. And I'd be there at work, anchoring the news, thinking thoughts like, am I gonna get fired? I'd be live talking to viewers thinking are they changing the channel right now? Am I costing the network ratings, right? It was this big season of self-doubt. And I remember the moment where I got this gut feeling, right? Where I was like, okay, this makes no sense. If there are thousands of makeup companies out there, why can't I find anything that works for me? And then I had that thought. Maybe you had this thought when you made the decision to start with Saint. But I had this thought where I was like, well, maybe I just go for it. Maybe I just figure out how to, in my case, how do I create something that solves my problem? If I could do that, it would probably help a whole lot of other people, right? So that was my thought. But then my head was like, oh, but you got no money. You don't know what you're doing. You know nothing about beauty, right? And you're not qualified. So I just was like, okay, shove that feeling down. And this went on and on and on, and I couldn't shake that gut feeling. And so many times in life, we have a gut feeling, but we let our heads talk ourselves out of it, right? And we live in that place between a knowing and then our mind telling us all the reasons that it'll never work. And I sat there forever until one day I had this huge aha moment where I thought about okay, this makes no sense. like all these beauty companies, how does nothing work? But I realized from the time I was a little girl, I would always see those beauty commercials, and I always aspired to look like them. But I never saw a woman with bright red rosacea saying, buy this, right? It was always sort of like overly photoshopped, all the stuff. And I realized, like, I always loved those commercials and all the ads in magazines, but deep down inside, they always made me feel like I wasn't enough. And I had this, like, aha moment where I'm like, wait a minute, if I can figure out how to create a product, like, what if it's not even about that? What if I, like, show my rosacea? What if I put real people as models, like every age and shape and size and skin tone and skin challenge, and call them beautiful models and mean it? Like, what if I could do something to help shift that definition in the whole beauty industry for every little girl out there who's about to start doubting herself, and every grown woman who still does? So that why hit me so hard because it was deep and personal. And after that, I couldn't shake it. And I thought, okay, but I'm in my dream job. But what I know is knowing when to let go of a dream matters as much as knowing when to go after one. And that's super important, right? And I'm honored, and I know I said this in the beginning, but to be in a room filled with women and people, I know it's not all women, but to be in a room filled with brave ones, willing to go after it. I'm so honored for that. So I went for it. And just, like maybe some of you in this room had a similar experience to me. Oh, it's hard. It's hard, right? So I thought, okay, my honeymoon flight, in my case, my honeymoon flight to South Africa, I wrote the business plan, which I don't recommend, it's not romantic, but I was like all in, obsessed at this point. Wrote the business plan, got back, quit my job. My husband ended up quitting his job. We took all of our savings, and I thought, if we can create a great product, it's just gonna sell. And so, yeah, it's not that easy, right? So we went to all the third-party chemists and manufacturers, and we created a formula that worked for me, and I thought, this is gonna be huge, right? From that moment on, you guys, it was over 3 years before I could afford to pay myself anything. It was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of no's. Every place I sent our product to, whether it was like Sephora, Ulta, the department stores, QVC, all of them said no. The department stores especially would say to me, they always use this line that you have to use unattainable aspiration. Meaning, and they'd say women won't buy makeup from images like this, which was like my face, and like all these other, skin challenges. Like, you have to use unattainable aspiration. And it was like no after no after no after no. So finally, I said, okay, everyone's saying no, but this product's so good. Like, we're just gonna go direct. Like, we're gonna go direct to consumer, right? And the problem was we had no money, no website, no nothing. We had put everything in the product. So, and we couldn't afford to hire anyone to help. So my husband went and bought this big yellow book called HTML for Dummies. I don't know if you've ever seen those books. And he literally designed our first website. And I was like, you don't understand, this is gonna be huge. And the day our website went live, I was like a little kid on Christmas morning. Like, I was freaking out, running around our office, which is our living room. And I was like, it's gonna be huge, and it's gonna be amazing. And it went live, and we're an hour in, no orders. The second hour, no orders. The entire day goes by, no orders. The next day, no orders. Finally, I did to him what's so easy to do if you are in business with a friend or a loved one. I said, it's broken, you did it wrong. I'm like, there's no way you did this website right, and we're just getting no orders. Like, the product's too good. And this went on and on. The days went by with no orders, the weeks went by, no orders. And then one day, our very first order came in, and I was like, running around our office screaming, so excited. And he comes up to me and he goes, that was me. He goes, I placed an order to prove to you as LinkedIn, on every, like, it didn't matter what they did at Sephora or QVC, or I would send them samples. Like, I was just, emailing everyone, calling everyone, just trying so hard to make this happen. And everyone kept saying no. I remember when I got a call from Sephora, and that they were willing to have a meeting in their offices in San Francisco. And I was like freaking out, right? And I flew out there, could barely afford the plane ticket, and I was trying to be so cool. Which now that I look back, it was kind of like a wildflower trying to be a rose or something, I don't know. But I was trying, I was just like, we've got to get a yes. I don't know what we're gonna do. And I remember the meeting, and I'll cut a long story short, but have you guys ever been somewhere where you feel like you don't know why, but someone just isn't for you? And you're like, and you're trying to do everything, and the whole room was filled with women that were amazing. I could tell they were really into the product. This was our concealer at the time. They were in the product. And then that one woman who was a head buyer at the time who was making the decision, I was trying to do everything. And I remember at one point she said in the meeting, if people were talking about this product, I'd be hearing about it, and I'm not. And it was a no. And I remember the elevator ride down, just it was packed with Sephora people. So I was like, I am the CEO, I cannot cry. I was trying not to cry, and tears were coming out. And I remember walking out of the lobby around the corner in the brick wall and just sobbing. Because I didn't know how we were gonna make it. I didn't know how we were gonna survive. And it just kept going and going and going and going and going. And I believed in what I was doing. I really, really, truly did. And I knew our product was good, but for me, it wasn't even as much the product. It was I believed it would really, how we were, our mission, much like the beautiful mission you guys have. I believed it would change one life at a time, right? I believed it, and so that was literally what I lived on. It was that belief. And I would go to the frozen yogurt store and get the free samples. You know when you fill the cup up? We were doing everything to save money. Anyways, so, random. I've never said that on stage before. So we just kept going. And then I remember when I had been sending QVC samples for a few years, and I finally got word that their head guy, a guy named Alan Burke, wanted to have a meeting, or wanted to have a call. And I was like, oh my gosh. Anna Wintour in fashion, Alan Burke is this icon and is responsible for QVC, which is the live television shopping channel. He built it from, I don't know if you guys have ever seen it in the old days where you would watch QVC and they would sell steak knives and be like, buy now, and everyone's like, ah, and it's really cheesy. He transformed it, and he got all the luxury makeup companies from the department stores on there, and he built this multi-billion-dollar division of beauty at QVC. So he's been there decades, and I'm like, if he wants to have a call, there's no way it's a no, he wouldn't waste his time, right? And so I remember the day when we hopped on the phone, and I was pacing around, trying to power pose and get ready for the call, and telling myself they'll be lucky to have us, all the things. And when I got on the call, he's like, hello, Jaime, this is Alan Burke with QVC. And I'm like, Alan, so nice to meet you. And he says, listen, I wanted to call you directly myself and let you know that I've met with all of our buyers. We've gotten your samples, all of them. And he was like, I want to tell you directly, all the buyers were there, and it's unanimous. You are not the right fit for QVC or for our customers. And I remember, first of all, when someone says to you, you're not the right fit, it's sort of hits in this way, where for me, I hear it as my whole life long of, oh, you're not enough, right? And so, but right away, we're all salespeople in this room, right? So right away, I go right into pitching. I'm like, oh, but Alan, I am the right fit. And then I start telling him all the reasons why I'm the right fit and why I love QVC and all that. And he thanked me for loving QVC and said it's a no, but I wish you the best. And I just remember that day, you guys, I don't know if you've ever had a day like this, but I remember climbing under my covers, just sobbing. just like sobbing. And I remember waking up the next morning, and if you've ever had a bad dream, and then you hope like it was a dream, but then you realize it wasn't a dream, it was real, and then you relive it. And so that happened like day after day, and I would pray and be like, I don't understand why I'm feeling in my gut like I'm supposed to be doing this, but everybody around me is saying no. And these experts I keep putting on these pedestals are telling me I'm not the right fit. And it was just like, I don't understand. Is my gut wrong? Is my knowing wrong? And this just was like, and every time, you guys, even in the most brutal of days, when I would be sobbing my eyes out, when I would get still and either pray or just like ask my intuition, I always felt like I was supposed to keep going. Even, by the way, when lovely family who actually means so well, they're like, so you haven't made any money in how many years? I'm just like, but my gut kept saying to keep going. And I remember that day, I think it was like day 3 after crying in bed, where I wrote in my journal these words. I wrote, know your why, then fly, girl, fly. And I read those words every single day until I didn't need the reminder. And I got back up and kept going. And then I remember we got down to under $1,000 in our bank account, which was personal and company, everything combined, which meant we had a couple weeks left until we were about to go under. And I got a phone call that did completely change my life. It was from a potential investor who had gotten hold of our product, loved it, and was super interested. I'm like, oh my gosh. And this was a big private equity firm that's really well known for taking like small companies, even pre-revenue sometimes, and turning them into big household names that we all shop at like grocery stores and big box stores. And I was like, okay, this is huge, because if they invest, then A, I'm not gonna go bankrupt. And B, like what if he can use his leverage to get us into all these stores that keep telling us no? So I was super excited, and we went to meeting after meeting after meeting, and it got down to the last meeting where we were in the diligence phase of actually doing the deal. And it got down to the last meeting where we were presenting our whole future product pipeline, all the stuff. And at the very end of the meeting, my husband and I flew up for the meeting. At the very end of the meeting, the whole team was around, and the head guy was like, congratulations, like you should be so proud. This is a really, really great product. And he's like, he was 3 feet from me here, and his team was behind him. And he says, congratulations, but it's a no. We're gonna pass on investing in cosmetics. And at that point, I'd heard no so many times, right? And I was like, okay, can you tell me why? Because feedback is usually a gift. And he's right here, and he got really quiet. And he's like, do you want me to be really honest with you? And I'm like, yes, please. And he says to me, and I remember his mouth started moving, and he says, I just don't think women will buy makeup from someone who looks like you with your body and your weight. And when he said those words, first of all, I actually didn't ever feel anger toward him. But when he said those words, it was like a lifetime of body doubt, self-doubt, like flooded through my body at once. So when I'm watching his mouth move, it almost felt like I was staring my own fear straight in the eye. And when he said those words, but why I'm sharing this story, okay, is because when he said those words, I just don't think women will buy makeup from someone who looks like you with your body and your weight. I will never forget this moment after, where I got this like such strong feeling in my gut that said, he's wrong.
Could have put it another way. I love it.
But don't even let me get sidetracked on this. I just have to say this. As little girls, we start learning to make decisions on consensus. We ask everyone else how they feel, and we start learning to stop trusting our gut, right? In this moment, I remember that feeling so strong. And it was this knowing that he's wrong. And I remember thinking, okay, but everyone else is saying the same thing as him. No one's saying yes, but this gut feeling that he's wrong. And here's what I want to say. Every one of us gets rejection. Every single one of us has somebody look us in the eye and in their own words say, we're not enough, or we're not the right fit, or they don't believe in us, or it's them, not us, or whatever it is, right? We all have had someone do that. We all continue in our lives to have someone do that. And when I think about what happened in that moment, it's really been one of the biggest life lessons for me. And no matter if you believe in God or the universe, or I think this is a universal lesson, it doesn't matter. When I look back at that moment, what I know for sure happened is like, this dude gave me a no, but God gave me a knowing, right? And whether you say the universe, it doesn't matter. We get so many no's. But every single one of us, I don't just believe, I know that your gut is more powerful than anyone else's advice. And it is so easy to listen to all the no's and not listen to our own knowing, right? And so many people start doing this. Maybe even just think about friends and family you might have, right? How many are listening to all the no's? And then they start telling themselves all the no's, right? And they're not, I just see so many of you guys nodding. And then you're telling yourself all the no's and you don't even hear your own knowing anymore. Learning to get still, to trust your gut, whether for you it's prayer or meditation or just stillness, and hearing your gut and hearing your knowing, right, is one of the most important things. And it's a muscle. It's a muscle you build. And for me, it's a lifelong journey of learning to hear it even better, right? But I believe, you guys, that your friendships and your romantic relationships and your business and your life literally comes down to which one you listen to. Do you listen to the no's or do you listen to your knowing? And learning how to do that is huge and so powerful. Because when you don't learn how to do it, self-doubt gets so loud. And when your self-doubt gets loud, and I'm going to go deep with you guys for a minute, if you're all right. When your self-doubt, I love it, thank you. When your self-doubt gets loud, right? When your self-doubt gets so loud, we start talking ourselves out of becoming the person we're born to be. When our self-doubt gets so loud, we literally start to live our lives hiding in plain sight. And I want you to think about this notion for a second. If you've ever, see a lot of you nodding already, if you've ever walked in a room as part of who you are, but not as all of who you are, you're hiding in plain sight. If you've ever, when it first started for me, by the way, maybe you'll relate to this, I can remember being a little girl, and I remember, probably the first time when I knew the answer, and I decided not to raise my hand in class. Because I see so many of you nodding, right? It was the first time I remember, well, what if I'm wrong? Or what if other people judge me? Or what if other people make fun of me? And from that moment on, we learn to stop trusting ourselves and start hiding in plain sight. And what does that look like now as adults? It might look like you're the leader of a team, but you still don't share your idea with your team on that Zoom. Hiding in plain sight. It could look like you're crushing it with your goals, but you're not taking a risk because you're doubting yourself and playing it safe, hiding in plain sight. It could look like not getting on the dating app. It could look like helping so many other people with their dreams and their hopes and the books that they're writing, but knowing inside you want to write your own. There's so many ways that we hide in plain sight. It can look like, not calling the 25 people you wanted to spread the word with about a new product. Because there's still a part of you hiding in plain sight and doubting yourself. There's so many ways this manifests. So I just want to take a moment, because I don't know if any of y'all have ever gone to events and then people talk and you think that's awesome, and then you leave and then you forget everything and nothing happens. Yeah, so we're not going to let that happen today. So I want to take a moment, and if you will, if you have a pen and paper in front of you, or you can use your phone, or the back of your hand, or your memory if you'd rather. But when you write things down, you are so much more likely to retain them, or you can type them out. I just want to take a moment. I'm not going to call on anyone, okay? I want this to be so true and personal for you, and I just want you to think about this for a moment and write down one true way you've been hiding in plain sight in your life. And maybe it's in your business, maybe it's in your friendships and your social life, maybe it's in your dating life. One way you've been hiding in plain sight. And I'm not going to call on you, so be super, super honest. Super honest with yourself. Your time is so precious, and this is about you. One way you've been hiding in plain sight. Maybe you want to show up on social fully authentic, but you haven't.
The silence is in and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe.
Maybe you want to tell people no, and you still say yes.
Take the world to its feet.
Maybe you want to put your artistry out there in new ways. Or you believe so strongly in your mission, and you have goals of spreading it to 100 new people that you've been hiding in plain sight. Maybe it's personal. Maybe it's personal. And you want to find a partner. But to use the famous quote, maybe you haven't been letting new people love you because of how old people have hurt you. Hear a lot of sighs on that one. One way you've been hiding in plain sight. All right. Now I want you to take a moment after you've jotted this down, and I want you to write down the truth of what is hiding in plain sight in this way already cost you in your life. What does it cost you? What does it cost you in your friendships, or maybe the people around you? What does it cost you in your joy? Maybe in your career? I want to say too, because I see so many of you crying, that, and I should have said this in the beginning, if this feels too heavy, please skip it, okay? Please skip it. We all know where we're at and when we're ready to kind of go there with certain things, okay? I've done this exercise so many times, cried my eyes out. I'm talking about alone at home. Cried my eyes out so many times, and it's really helped me tie enough meaning to breaking through the ways I'm hiding. So what does hiding in plain sight already cost you? Maybe it's in your personal life, maybe it's in your professional life. All right, we're gonna go a little deeper. So, I want you to imagine your life 5 years from now if you don't change the way you've been hiding in plain sight. Imagine your life 5 years from now if you don't change the way And for me, there's many ways, right? You can do this exercise at home a few times. But the one that you identified, 5 years from now, if you don't change the way you're hiding in plain sight, what will it cost you then? What will it cost you in your career, your ambitions, your goals? What will it cost you in maybe the relationships with the people around you? Maybe with your kids? So many of us think our purpose has to be our profession, but it doesn't. For a lot of us, our purpose might be to break generational cycles. Might be to be the first woman in generations to look in the mirror and love ourselves. All right, we're gonna go a little deeper, and then I promise, I want you to imagine your life 10 years from now. How old will you be 10 years from now? Who will the people in your life closest to you, what ages will they be? And what will it cost you then if you don't change the ways you've been doubting yourself and hiding in plain sight? What will it cost you in your relationships, in your career, in your business, in how you feel every day? When you're home, you can take so much time on each of these. Not that it's fun, but you can take a lot more time. Okay, the last question. We can go a lot deeper. When you're home, do the 20-year, please. 25-year. Last question. What's one way, starting right away, that you're going to commit? This can be very small, it can be big. What's one way you're gonna stop hiding in plain sight in your life? One way. Maybe you're just gonna walk up to someone else today and give them an authentic compliment. Maybe you're gonna share your idea on that Zoom. Maybe on your paper right now, you're gonna write the first word to your book. What's one way? Maybe tonight you're getting on the dating app. It resonated with a few of you. One way you're gonna stop hiding in plain sight. All right, we've got a lot more to cover. So what I want to do right now, what I know is you guys, when stuff doesn't get in your body, you don't retain it. So if you are able, if you're not, please just do this in your chair. But if you're able, I just want to ask everyone to stand. And I want you to cheer for every other person in this room who is a wildflower who's about to step out. Okay, everyone can have a seat when you're... I know. Learning, when we start to take steps, and I wish, like, It'd be so fun to do this for 10 hours, but not fun, but you know what I mean? The number of times, you guys, like, so many people when they say things to me like, how did you build a $1 billion company from your living room? You were a Denny's waitress, right? It's like I feel sometimes they're expecting business tips. These are the things. You know what I mean? These are the things. Because you have everything you need inside of you right now to accomplish your biggest goals, wildest dreams, personally and professionally. And the biggest journey we're each on in this lifetime is learning to believe it for ourselves and learning how to. Okay. Okay, so let me figure out where I was. So the dude says, the investor says, I just don't think women will buy makeup from someone who looks like you with your body and your weight. That day, went out to I thanked him for his honesty. I literally never felt anger toward him. It was really just stuff, you know. Went out to my car, saw my eyes out. But got back up and kept going and didn't know how it was going to work out. We had signed up for a big beauty expo in New York City like a year earlier. And I flew out there and I was demonstrating our product, and there were 6,000 women there, and every beauty brand from around the world was there trying to win one of their awards. It's called CEW, Cosmetic Executive Women Event. And I was at the 3-foot table, which you're not allowed to leave, and no one had heard of it. And I'm around all the brands, and I saw QVC had a huge booth in the background, and I was like, oh, like I've called them a million times, but I've never met anyone in person. Like, what if I can sneak away and like meet someone? And long story short, I snuck away from the booth. I met a buyer. And she knew who I was right away, which I guess it was so many samples. And once I said my name, she didn't recognize me, but anyways, and so she said, let's have a meeting, and gave me her card. And you know when someone says like, DM me, or whatever, and you're like, and then you're checking like Instagram and no one's DMing anybody, right? So I didn't know if she meant it. And oh, by the way, really fast, just something I really want to say because it's so important, you guys. When we talk about learning to turn on the volume on self-doubt, when we talk about exercises like identifying what things are going to cost you if you don't change them and stuff like that, another big one I just want to share, okay, before I forget. We are in a world where you always hear this saying that you become the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? We always hear that saying. In 2023, think about, and this might be different for everyone, but think about the 5 people you spend the most time with, or maybe the 4 or 3, but then think about how much time you spend on Instagram or social media. For a lot of us, that time is actually more than we spend with the top 5 people, or the top 2 people, whatever your people are, right? That time on social. And I just want to say this is one of the most important things on stepping out of this room and learning to turn down the volume on your self-doubt and turn up the volume on your power and your intuition and your knowing and your dreams, is to make sure you curate the people that you follow on social. And do this often. And I do this all the time. So for me, I'm on Instagram the most, but I actually pay attention to how I feel. And if I see someone's page and I don't feel empowered or inspired, and instead maybe I feel some of those negative kind of things, I curate and I unfollow. Or if it's a family member, you can mute it so they don't know that you don't see it. It's so important, you guys, because that social media in your world, okay, it's more than the 5 people in terms of time. So huge, please, and follow people like Kara, people that empower you to be, you know what I'm saying, who you know you're going to be. It is so important. The number of people that follow people that disempower them is huge. And that can be in the beauty industry, it can be anywhere. So really, really big. So anyhow, she gave me her card from QVC and said, let's have a meeting, and she actually did mean it. And so I called her, we set up a meeting, and I flew out to Westchester, Pennsylvania, with QVC, and literally went in the building, poured my heart out, and got our very first yes. Got our very first yes. But here's what that yes meant. Here's what that yes meant. It meant it was a consignment offer. I got a 10-minute spot. So I was going to get a 10-minute segment where I had to either hit their sales goal or not come back. And it was a consignment offer. So what that meant was I needed to sell over 6,000 units of our concealer in a 10-minute window to hit their sales goal. And it's consignment, so I learned, I had to actually pay for, manufacture, ship in, everything, all the inventory, and still not be paid. And then if it didn't sell, I had to take it all back. So you should never say yes to that. Like, you should never accept a purchase order you can't afford to lose, right? But we literally had no other options, and we were completely out of options. And at that point, we were only selling 1 to 2 orders a day on our website. That did work, and that was it. And I'm like, how are we going to do this? And we went to 22 banks, and the 23rd bank, we were trying to get SBA loan. They all said no, and the 23rd bank, California Bank and Trust, said yes, which I'm not sure why to this day, but they gave us the SBA loan for the amount to cover that purchase order, and then a little bit more. And we decided to go for it. And with that little bit of extra money, we hired third-party consultants. And they're amazing, and they help a lot of people succeed on television and sell their products in stores. The problem was they all told me the same thing. They said, okay, you get one shot, it's 10 minutes. If you're gonna have a chance of succeeding, here's what you need to do. You need to book this type of models, which were all like perfect, flawless skin, same age, same skin tone. You know, like, do all these things. And I said, okay, I get that's how it's usually done, but here's why we created the brand. What if, and I was like, what if we put like real people, like every age, shape, size, skin tone? What if I take, we put models, with acne and models in their 70s and 80s, even older. What if I take my own makeup off on national TV? I could prove how the product works. And they were mortified. Like, literally mortified. And here's the thing, they wanted us to win, right? They were giving us the best advice they knew how. And I was so torn, you guys, because sometimes we keep learning lessons over and over until they really take root. And I knew you can't fake authenticity, right? I knew if I go on air and I am presenting something that's not my true reason I started this company, I know you can't fake authenticity. It's not gonna work. But when you keep being told no over and over and over and over and over, you start to doubt your own gut. So I flew out to QVC a week before our one big shot, and I sat in the parking lot and in a rental car all by myself for a week, just like watching the front door of the building, freaking out because somehow that made sense at the time. And I was just like praying, crying, and there were moments where I thought, okay, if I do it their way, then I can make some money, then I'll do it my way, right? But there were 2 things that happened in the car. One was this huge realization that what I know, which is while authenticity alone doesn't automatically guarantee success, inauthenticity guarantees failure. And I knew that, right? But I also knew it's really hard to trust that, right? And I just kept thinking, like, who is my customer, right? Like, if I'm gonna go live, it's your live broadcast to 100 million homes. If I'm gonna go live to 100 million homes, like, who's gonna be watching? And for whatever reason, I just kept imagining this single mom, like, in Nebraska, folding laundry, who's way too big, in Nebraska, way too busy to remember that she matters and that she's beautiful. And I had this moment where I was like, you know what? If she's gonna bless me with like seconds of her precious time and turn on her television, I'd rather have her see me showing real women, calling them beautiful, meaning it. Even if she buys nothing, I'd rather stand for that than sell a whole crap load of product and stand for nothing. Okay? So y'all, you know this when your gut's telling you something, but like the whole world and your head is telling you something else. It's so hard to trust it, and I'm so glad that I did. And I remember walking into the studio that day. There was this countdown clock on the floor that had the 10-minute clock. And I remember I had double Spanx on. I didn't care what I looked like. I was sweating so much from freaking out that I didn't want to sweat through my dress, so I had 2 Spanx. And I was just like freaking out. I had practiced this demonstration where I show how our concealer doesn't crease on my wrist and how like these department store ones do that are big sellers, and I was like, this is great. I had practiced in the bathroom mirror so many times. All of a sudden we go live, and I'm not worried about TV, but I was worried about, it felt like the weight of the world, right? And I was trying to do this demonstration, but my arm was like this. And the host was like, thank you, sugar, and she shoved it under the thing. And then I remember the moment my bare face, bright red before a shot came up, and walking over to real women and every age and size and skin tone and skin challenge. And I remember we were a few minutes, then I learned, by the way, right before I went live, you're not guaranteed 10 minutes. If you go live and you're a minute or 2 in, and you're not hitting numbers, you think you still have 8 minutes, but your clock jumps to 1 minute left. Yeah, and then you know, I just lost a few $100,000, I'm gonna go bankrupt. And if you try to sell, nothing sells, right? So we're a few minutes into this, and like I remember walking over to all the real women, and I didn't know how we were doing, but I knew I wasn't cut yet. So I was like, okay, that's good. And we kept going and going and going, and I got down to the 1 minute left, and the host says, the deep shade's almost gone. The tan shade's almost sold out. Then literally, at the 10-minute mark, this giant sold out sign came up across the street. I remember I start crying on national TV, and they cut from me and went to like Dyson vacuum or something. And my husband comes running through the double doors of the studio, and I'm like, real women have spoken. And he's like, we're not going bankrupt. And that one airing led to 5 that year. This was in 2010, and then 101 the next year, and then 250 shows the next year, and then we built the biggest beauty brand in QVC's history. And it is to this day. So, I only share it. Thank you so much. I only share it because, for years I said no, and you're not the right fit, right? And then we kept growing and growing. We finally got yeses from Sephora, from Ulta. And then remember Alan Burke, the head of QVC Beauty? So after we launched, he ended up becoming a great friend, but also a really great mentor. He is so smart, and he was obsessed with how we were doing things really differently and authentic to what we were doing, and he became one of my biggest champions. And then after decades at QVC, he retired. When he retired, we hired him in a paid position on our advisory board, so the guy that rejected me was now working for me. Not the right fit. No one can tell you, you don't have what it takes. And, we just kept growing and growing and growing. And we started expanding internationally. And then I realized that's really hard. And we went into Australia and then Southeast Asia. And I'm like, oh, wow. We have our team, but every country has different HR laws, regulatory compliance law. I mean, it was a lot. And I'm like, okay, we can do this at a slower pace, or if we partner with a larger company like L'Oreal that already has teams on the ground in 100 countries, maybe we can accelerate our mission. And so I started doing meetings with them, and a lot of people don't know this, but then they said no for a couple of years. Every meeting was a no with L'Oreal until it wasn't. And then I remember the moment when they made an offer to, after years of no, to buy it. And it was for a number I couldn't have even, when I was a Denny's waitress getting dimes on the table, I could not have imagined something like this. But I believe in divine timing. I believe our steps are ordered. I believe rejection is God's protection. Rejection is the universe's protection. And in this case, you guys, after L'Oreal said no for a few years, and then they finally made an offer, all of a sudden, so did a bunch of other people. And for bigger amounts. It was crazy. And I didn't know how to even say no. I only knew how to hear no, right? And when L'Oreal made that offer, I said no. And that was really scary, because it's scary to trust yourself, and it's scary to know your worth and to stand behind it. And then they came back with a way bigger offer that felt really fair. And I said yes, and so in 2016, they acquired It Cosmetics. They paid $1.2 billion cash. And they made the first woman to hold a CEO title of a brand in their 107-year history. And then I gave them my word that I would stay on for 3 years. And in the first 2 years, we actually doubled the size of the company after the acquisition, which was wild. And it was an amazing journey. But the day they made the announcement, because they're a public company, it was all over the press. It was like the homepage of the Wall Street Journal. It was everywhere. And that was the first time in 6 years I heard from that potential investor. Remember the one that said, I just don't think women will buy makeup from someone who looks like with your body weight. So first time I hear from him in 6 years, and he says, congratulations on the L'Oreal deal. I was wrong. That's what he said. Do you guys remember the movie Pretty Woman? Like when she goes in the store and they won't help her? So, yes.
Big mistake. That's what I did to that girl over there. Big mistake.
Big mistake. I want to say I could give you 1.2 billion reasons why. It was a huge mistake. But I didn't. I kept it classy. Because I wouldn't have wanted to be him. But we kept growing and growing, and at the 3-year mark, it was just such a beautiful journey to see. And you guys, I was for the first time in my life not doing all the hard stuff all of a sudden, like all the granular hard stuff. And I was at the 3-year mark with L'Oreal and in this big fancy office and going to Oscar parties, and I'm like, oh, this is the stuff the world celebrates. But then I got this gut feeling like I'm supposed to step away and just literally spend the rest of my life pouring into women, serving however I can. And it's really weird to trust your gut when the other thing is more fun. And I've just lived this way, and I stepped away and wrote my first ever book, Believe It, and donated 100% of the proceeds from that. And so now we've donated millions and millions of meals. And I just think about the days being a Denny's waitress, and it's only because I listened to my gut. And by the way, I love that job. But I also love donating millions of meals now through that. And this year funded leadership training in hundreds of prisons across the U.S. and just doing lots of stuff. And my greatest joy, though, I think in life, a guy named Roy Vaden says this quote, that in life we're best positioned to serve the person we once were. And the person I once was, but also the person I still am, is someone who every single day has to practice tools and has to implement them to overcome self-doubt, to believe I'm enough, to believe I'm qualified. And that is my life's greatest mission, I believe. I believe my life's greatest mission is to help other people not just believe, but know they're enough. So I want to share one more thing, and then I have to wrap up. But before I do, just because we have, and we just have a few minutes together. So if you would like more stuff like this, I just want to share a free thing with you guys. We have a code, and I don't know if the internet's working or not. This is an entire guide. It's free, and I don't sell anything on my site at all. So this is an entire free thing about my best, today